What's up, guys? Welcome to your sixth video about Express. Remember, we talk about parameters. We talk about different type of parameters we can use, request param, request param, and so on. Now, today we're going to talk about something called header. Now, I'm gonna try to describe it. What is a header? And also, I'm going to try to kind of show you guys like what is a header, and then how we use it, and why do we use it, right? So this is going to be what I'm going to talk about, okay? And I'm gonna try to see if I could make this make sense for you. Anyway, long story short, guys, when you talking about a header, and this is something we as a developer use a lot, right? Well, if we go over back to our application, we have a very simple page. We have some input, two inputs actually in the button. Well, this is the user that has the choice to enter whatever they like. They can enter something like this. They can enter something like this. Whatever the user want, then they enter, and then they send those information back to the server, which the server spit that information back for us from the last session we did, right? Well, what if we did not want to give the user the choice? It's like we set the value for them. For example, let's say, hey, I know the user email, I've stored it somewhere. Like, I want it every single time this user is communicating with this server, I always want to send the emails over the header. So the bottom line is, a header is a way of sending additional information to the client and the server. That's how it works. Like, how do we use it sometimes? Sometimes you don't want everybody to get access to all your routes. Like, you don't want everyone to get access to, aka your data. Like, you don't want everyone to get access to your data. You want a type of person, like probably you just want students, right? Probably you just want teachers to get access to your data. Well, headers allow you to send those type of information as well. All right, anyway, guys, too much talking. This sounds like so boring, and you guys might not have no clue what I'm talking about. Let's actually go ahead and do it, okay? So what we're going to do is, every single time that the user enters some data, and I'm gonna go in my backend inside my post, because that's how they send data back and forth, all right? So I'm going to console log whatever the users bring in. This is going to be the body, all right? Body. All right, so we got something like this, very basic. All right, so when I go back, refresh this page, and I'm going to enter the same thing, blah, 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 and enter something, and then check this out. I got the data, right? But I do not have any additional information coming about that user. This is what the user gave me. Like that's their choice to enter anything they want. They could have entered something like Patrick. There's no way to know if this user like actually enter whatever they want. Like there's no way to verify that this is the correct user. Well, what we can do instead, we can head over our our view. This is where we put all our HTML and index HTMLs, and all the way inside the JavaScript where we sending this post request. This is where we sending this post request. Now we're going to change this a little bit different. This is jQuery related. We're going to use this method instead because it's kind of much easier to work with different options. All right, so this is going to be a method called post, and let me use double quote instead. All right, and this is where we pass the data that we want to send, and then this return a promise. And if you guys don't know what a promise is, definitely look it up. This is very important. I'm gonna set a function into those. All All right, it's going to return a promise. I got that promise, okay, and now I'm going to console log the data just like I have this. Technically, this is going to be the response. All right, now just remember this is an overview of me showing you what a header is, okay? This is not me going over jQuery. This is more like an express session. Alright, I'm looking forward to do a jQuery video which I'm gonna break these things down for you. So we no longer need this. We're gonna use this type this time. This is just a different ways of giving it more data. So the URL is more about where do we want to send it. We want to send it to user. This is the path. And data is the data that we want to send, which is this user data. That's what we want to send. So we're gonna copy this over here, which is pretty much the same thing, except you got more options, right? Well, now let's try this again to make sure this is working the way expected, okay? So refresh this, go, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Boom, we're sending stuff. You see that? I got username, go, it worked the same way. Now, here's how we can set a header. If we do comma, and then you do headers, column, and then an object. Now, whenever you have an object, there's a whole list of them. And there is actually something that I bookmark, which there's a whole list of them. And I'll definitely add this to the description. But if you head over here, this is a whole list of different type of headers that you can set. Like all of this. This is all of this header you can set. But there is a way to create a custom one. I'm going to create a custom one. This is called X. I'm going to call this testing. So to create a custom one, you do X testing. And then you give it a value, whatever value. I'm going to say, hey, this is going to be a student. Now, remember, the user doesn't have the option of telling us that they are a student. We set that additional information to the server by passing that additional information over header and by building a custom header, which is not none of this. Where is it? Remember, there's a lot of them. So we just building a custom header, which is X testing. Anyway, long story short is this is how we send a custom header. Now the server, if I go to routing, the server now to get those header, I'm not actually going to use request.body. I'm going to use request.headers. Let's see if this is the right one. All right, you see, I use request, the first one, and then header to kind of see what headers are coming on. Now, we're gonna take a look real quick and refresh the page again. Remember, the user hasn't set any value called student. We are the one sending some additional information for them. All right, I'm gonna type Sterling, blah, 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 and beam sent, and head over my server. Check this out, right? Well, what's happening is, you see your testing is equal to student. Well, what's really happening is by default, even though you don't see it, the browser is sending some default header for you. It's sending connection, it's sending content length, it's sending origin, it's sending user agent, it's sending a lot of things for you. And the cool thing about this is it will tell you on what type of computer that the user in, which is this information. You can filter them and do some logic, but AKA you got a lot more information that you need, plus the custom header that you set. Now remember to get access to those on the server side, which is views index. It's actually routing. And then to get access to this, we do request.header. But what we really want is this one. To get this one is we're going to do bracket and whatever we name it, X testing. And then we do this. You see that? We do X, boom. Now let's try this one more time. And we're gonna set some information and boom, and then go back again. You see now, we get the value of student. So we know much more information about that user, and we can set as many as we want to. Go back again to the client, the browser index, and I'm gonna set another header, custom header, X. I'm gonna call this class, whatever we want. I'm gonna give this a value of you rock, something like this. All right, and I'm gonna go back again and kind of console log. Actually, we know the name already. It's gonna be x.class, so we can technically go to the routing, and I'm gonna leave it here, do a copy, and then now grab it, and then we place the x text in with the new one. So I'm gonna be second one, and then first one. All right, we're getting the value, right? And then refresh this, and then send some data again, and then boom, you see we got student, we rock. Now let's go back again to the docs. We talk about what is a header. We talk about how do we use it, but why do we use it? I understand this might be helpful of sending additional information about certain user, but why do we use it? Like, why is the purpose of it? Well, most of the time we use it for verification. Like, we want some people to get access to our data, but we don't want everyone. We want to be able to just let a specific group of people get access to our data. So header is usually a really good way of sending those additional information of saying, all right, this person is the group that you are looking for, and therefore they get access to your data. Now, this might bring more confusion, or this might mix in for you, but let's actually do an example, okay? Now, in Express, there is another thing that I'm going to cover, which is this is going to be a little bit one step further, and we can kind of go over it one more time. It's something called, let me leave some comments over here. It's something called middleware. I think I briefly talked about this, but what is middleware in Express? Middleware in Express is a way to configure, to technically extend Express. I'll put it this way, to extend Express functionality. Like Express now can do route, it will save data and do things like that. I'll put my own description. Feel free to Google it out, guys. You'll find this way. But it's a way to extend Express functionality. Now, the route, no matter what, it's sending, it's posting a user, or it's adding a user. It's giving you those information. Like, there is no way we can extend Express right now for it to say, okay, don't give everyone access to this. We want a specific people, right? Well, we're going to build a middleware to extend Express functionality and just keep it, you know, from not giving data out to anybody. All right. Now, how do we do this? Okay, this sounds interesting, but how do we do it? Here's how we do it. To do this, whenever you're using whenever you're using router, the way we use it is we know the router takes two parameters. This is the first one, and this one is the function. And this one is a function, right? Well, whenever we are using middleware, it takes a third parameter, which is, we can do this third, whatever, that's the third, we'll put it here. But the bottom line is the order they go to matters. The first one is the path. This is the home page technically. Well, the second one is the middleware. The second one is a middleware, and that middleware needs to be a function. And the third one is the actual route, which you can pass request rest, right? Well, this is how you configure middleware in Express. Now, remember, the second parameter, it's a function, all right? So what we're going to do over here is we're going to set a very simple middleware that's going to return true or false. One, we know three parameter. All right, the first one is a string. We're gonna say something like travel, something like this. The second one is a function. All right, we got this. We know this is a function. Okay, we got this. The third one also is a function as well. So we got two function. All right, I'm hoping everybody got that. All right, we got the path, we got a function, and then we got another function. But the second one is the actual middleware. That's the middleware, the second one. We're gonna leave some space over here. I'm gonna do this now. And then of course the third one is the actual route. That's how you define them. The third one, not the second one. The third one is the actual route. Of course we can send a response back, some JSON, and we can say something like whatever we want to send. We're sending okay, right? Well, let's go to travel real quick and kind of see what we got. Oops. Let's go to travel, hit enter. And of course nothing happened because we haven't configured this to return anything. Now let's remove it and let's see what happened. Refresh again, and then we able to go to travel and get that okay. Well, when we put it back, it keeps hanging. Refresh the page, refresh it again, and it just keeps hanging. Well, what's really happening, it's saying, okay, before this one runs, this one needs to process some information. And based on the information, then this is going to run. Like this become a private route unless this run first. Like the bottom line is, in order for this to run, or AKA in order for the user to get access to those data, this need to run first. Okay? All right, now here's the interesting part. This one takes 2 parameter, but this one takes 3. And the third one. The first one just like this one, the second one just like this one, but the third one means something else. This is actually going to be allowed this route to run, aka when the information finish processing. Right, when we finish processing and then we want to send the user to this route, then we call next. Like we do something like this. Now check this out. If I do this and go back over the browser, refresh, and now I get access to it because I call next, saying, okay, you can go to the next route. All right, now this might sound confusing. Trust me, guys, it's a little bit interesting, but let me put it this way, okay? We're gonna bring this function over here. We're gonna call this function validate, and we're gonna just put this function over here, and we're gonna do something very simple. Remember, and then we're gonna call this function right here. Just think about it as this function was there, except we kind of break it down for you and kind of put them away, divided them, whatever. But anyway, the bottom line is you are processing some information here. And then once you're done, if you want them to go to the next route, then you call next, the third parameter. Now, you can name them anything. It doesn't have to be next. But the bottom line is if you want them to go, or AKA get access to this data, then you call next. Now I'm gonna do a very simple example. I'm gonna say, okay, if true, if this is true, then I'm gonna call them next. Else, if it's not true, I'm gonna take the response. I'm gonna say response something like I'm gonna send us something like error and say you don't have access to this. Now once again, if it's true, then it's gonna go to the next route. If it's false, this one's going to run, which gonna return you don't have access to this. Now it's true, of course we're gonna be able to go to the next route, which we get access to this one, and now we can see the same thing. But if this was false, if this was false, which this is not sending us to the next route, but it's gonna send us an error saying you don't have access to this. Refresh the page, we got something like this. Now, this might sound confusing. I totally understand, guys, but the bottom line is this is called middleware. This is called middleware, and it allows you to extend Express functionality. Now, we're gonna use it in a very simple, okay? We're gonna copy and paste this one, delete this one, and we're going to use it over the post one. Like, we only want certain people to be able to send data, not everyone, okay? All right, so what I'm going to do is, remember, just the same way we grab the header, I'm gonna grab the header, which is, this is expecting to be student. Like, I'm expecting this to return student. This is how we set this one to be student. So I'm expecting this header to be student. And then I'm gonna say if student is equal to student. I can call this value instead. I feel like this is gonna bring more confusion. If the value that's coming from that header is equal to student, then we're going to send them to the next route, aka we're going to allow them to post. Right? I'm gonna call that. Remember, to do it, it's 3 parameters. Now we got 2, 1, 2. So we can just add the other one, which is validate, and I do this. Now we add that 3rd parameter, which is gonna check if this is equal to this, then do this. Now let's check this out, right? Now it's equal to student, and let's see if we can post. Go back again. Of course, we will be able to post unless we got some issue. I'm gonna do blah 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 blah, and then boom. You see, I'm able to post, and I'm processing. You see, it get the student, it console log the student, and I'm able to use everything. Where is it? The routing. I'm able to console log. I'm able to go to the next route. Put it this way, and then process all of this as well. Well, what if I set it equal to teacher, which is not equal to student? Remember, that middleware is extending Express functionality and validating or processing stuff before they allow us to get access to the next route by calling next. It's either they call next, that means they give us access to, or they don't give us access to run the other route. Now let's check it. Remember, it's now teacher, which means we don't want teachers to be able to post data. Like, we don't want them to post data. And then we do this, and then this, and then we set a message. You see, it's at undefined. And if we go back to our console, we don't have anything. Now, of course, what we can do, or where's the error? Now this is returning an error. I can just hold on, because it returns undefined. Should be, hold on, yeah, that's the posting one. I can technically send something like error, error, teacher does not have access to this, something like this. And then let's try this one more time, and refresh this page, and blah 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 blah, and blah blah blah, index 66. Oh, console log that data. Oh, sorry guys. All right, this is actually very important. Now, the way we remember, we want to send an error, like saying that they don't have access to this. And the way this is processing, and this, I'm glad we got this. But anyway, the way this is processing is saying, okay, if everything went fine, then run this. If something happened, like there's an error that occurs, then run this. By default, when we use rest.json, it's sending a response like everything was okay. What we really want to tell it is everything is not okay. We're gonna send an error, and status code mean more like an error, something happened, or everything went fine, like a success messages. But we're gonna find something like 409. You know, something like 409. You can definitely look at the HTTP codes. There are a lot of them, But let's see what happened now. Do this, we send an error, which when we click this time, this will know there's an error, and this won't run, but this one will run and will then console log out teacher. Let's see. You see? Error, teacher does not have access to this. Anyway, guys, this is Heather. I know this is a little bit challenging, but feel free to go over it one more time. See you guys shortly. Bye.